Hello everyone and welcome to this webcast today. My name is Emily Nicholls. I'm a BI and Analytics consultant here at Thorogood, and I also head up our Anaplan practice. I'm going to be talking to you today about what Anaplan is and why people are using it. And I'm going to do a quick demo which will highlight 10 of my favourite features about Anaplan. Just some tips and tricks that you should really be aware of if you're modelling in Anaplan, or if you're thinking about modelling in Anaplan. So for those who aren't familiar, I'll just very quickly run through who Thorogood are. We are a professional services firm specialising in BI and analytics, strategies, solutions and services. Our clients are some of the leading organisations in the insurance, banking, consumer goods, pharma and healthcare sectors, and we serve them globally with leveraged teams from our offices in the UK, the US, India, Brazil, and Singapore. You can see here a sample list of clients across our different sectors. There's some here that we've worked with for over 20 years and some that are relatively new. We are technology independent, so we partner with a number of different technologies which enables us to provide end-to-end solutions, right from data warehousing through to reporting. Obviously today we will be focusing on Anaplan. So Anaplan, whose name combines the words analysis and planning, is a cloud-based software as a service business modeling and planning platform. The goal is to enable collaborative planning which will ultimately improve your operational performance. So the core idea behind Anaplan is a single hub where business users can build, deploy, maintain and share models without any coding or reliance on IT personnel. So once the data is uploaded to the Anaplan cloud, business users can quickly analyze quite disparate sets of data from finance, HR, sales and various other areas of the business. Because Anaplan provides customers with a familiar Excel-style functionality, it's users who can use the software to make data-driven decisions that would otherwise perhaps require a data scientist skill set. But this idea has proven very popular. Anaplan currently has over 700 customers globally since its commercial release back in 2011. One reason for its popularity is that Anaplan can be used for a wide range of modelling solutions: workforce planning, demand planning, budgeting, planning and forecasting, financial consolidation, etc., etc. In addition to its many uses, Anaplan offers great advantages in a corporate environment because it is a cloud-based solution. Collaborative planning really goes hand in hand with being a cloud-native platform, and there are a few reasons for that. So firstly, you have one common platform, so you have integrated planning. You can report with applications across all lines of business, and you can roll them out in real time. So you get quite high adoption because everybody can be using it from day one. It's a fully maintained system, so there's no burden on IT at all, and there are regular releases. So I have to say, of all the technologies I've worked with, Anaplan is constantly gathering feedback, making improvements, fixing bugs. It has very, very frequent updates. Now, I'm going to take you through what Anaplan is in the context of something that we all know and love, which is Excel. So I'm just going to highlight some of the differences between planning in Excel versus planning in Anaplan. And for those of you that think Excel is good enough, this might convince you otherwise. So first up, calculations. Calculations are very sophisticated in both Excel and Anaplan. There's not really any competition there. Scalability, there are limits with individual spreadsheet sizes in Excel, and you often get this kind of spreadsheet spaghetti that leaves just one person who really understands the data flow. Anaplan offers a scalable in-memory technology which can handle tens of billions of cells in one model, and it can recalculate 1 billion numbers in less than a second. Now, all that these numbers really tell us is that we can get to a granularity of insight in Anaplan that just isn't achievable in Excel. data consistency. Excel reusing data is done by formulas. There's no process control around this, and structural changes can very easily lead to errors. In Anaplan, you can build whole routines that pipe data consistently and reliably to where it's needed. Dimensionality. Excel, it's two-dimensional, plus the use of additional sheets if you need. Anaplan, you build hierarchies and structures that allow for instant aggregations and business logic. Version control is where my face gets very sad for Excel, because you have to just rename your sheets. So you have spreadsheet version 1, version 2, version 20, and comparing those versions requires quite a lot of effort. So in Anaplan, you can actually make a version or scenario into a dimension, which enables some really easy what-if analysis that I will show later in the demo. Structure. The structures you build in Anaplan provide a framework that represents the way business processes work. There's very little structural control in Excel, but it is very flexible. So actually Excel is perfect for ad hoc analysis, but there's no strong framework like you get in Anaplan. Process support. Anaplan includes something called workflow, which allows the contribution and review process to be monitored and reported on. To get that kind of functionality in Excel, you would really need some quite bespoke VBA code. But it's my very brief overview of how Excel compares to Anaplan. Now, I'm not suggesting zero Excel at all. There are times when it's completely the right tool to use. So let's not bury it just yet, because Excel still has some strong assets to play. To start with, it's readily available in most companies, and many professionals are familiar with it already. In fact, it's the only programming language that most people know. But the real key to Excel's success is its flexibility. If you want to do a quick and dirty analysis, you can throw some numbers into Excel and get an answer back in seconds. So it's perfect for those kind of on-the-fly jobs. The challenge comes when you need something that is scalable, maybe has user access control, and the ability to reorganize structures. And that's when a tool like Anaplan can swoop in and really show its benefits. Anaplan's whole architecture is designed to satisfy the mutual needs of business users and the IT department. And that's really its unique selling point that I'm trying to get across today. You have these enterprise features, but they are on a user-friendly, accessible platform. So you've got good governance for IT requirements, while business users are essentially self-sufficient in creating and modifying quite complex models and what-if scenarios on the fly, which can answer complicated quantitative questions and span multiple areas of the business. People experienced with Excel will quickly be able to pick up Anaplan modeling. It just uses simple real language formulas. There's no coding required at all. And drag and drop hierarchy changes can be made with immediate effect. So the outcome of all of this really is that you can use Anaplan for complex enterprise-grade planning across thousands of users, but with minimal to zero IT support required. So you have happy users, happy IT, and happy auditors. Now I'm going to take you through a quick demo now in Anaplan. So as mentioned, Anaplan is in a browser. There's no need to install any software on user machines or on your servers. I'm using Chrome today, but Internet Explorer or Firefox will work just as well. I'm just going to hit F11, so I'm in full screen now. This is the Thorogood workspace, and I'm in my favorite applications here. They are sorted by the date that I last visited them, just like a file browser, except this is based on me personally. So I'm going to open my demo for today, which is based on data that everyone can relate to. It's to do with workforce planning, so it's a scenario that's relevant to most industries. We've landed here on a dashboard which has been set up as my landing page. I'll just talk you through what we can see on the screen. So Up at the top here we have the Anaplan logo, and next to that is my link back to all my models. So that's my menu screen. We've got the name of the model I'm in now, and over here you can see the workspace name so I know where I am. It tells me who's logged in, and I can change some profile settings there as well. And there's quite a lot of help options in Anaplan, including Anapedia, which is exactly what it sounds like. It is sort of like Wikipedia for Anaplan. It's community-driven, and it will be your first stop if you have any questions or concerns while you're modeling. Very useful. Now, you may have noticed we've got some tabs along here. I'll just open this left-hand panel first. So this is my model contents, and it's customizable, so I can just show the things that are of interest to me. But if I check this box here, I can actually see everything that is in this model. So I'll just hide that again. The next one here is our model map. This is going to show a diagram of the whole application. So I'm just going to minimize that so that we're looking at just the functional areas. And you can see the flow of data around my model here. This is all automatically done by Anaplan. I haven't done anything to set this up. It's very helpful in tracking calculations and data. The second tab here is only visible to admin users. It's our settings tab. Now, when I say admin users, they can be business users. They wouldn't actually normally be IT at all. It's just your nominated admin person. And this is showing everything that's going on in the background. So we've got our dimensions and hierarchies down here, our time settings. I can regulate users and assign user roles. I can set up import and export routines, and I can create modules and dashboards which will hold our data and visualizations. So to start this demo today, I'm going to open a module that I created earlier. It's called Historical Salary Breakout. And you can see I've got a couple of versions of this module. I'm just going to open the first one for now. I will come back to the second one. So it's just a simple module here with salary information, employee and department. If I move into the blueprint now, Anaplan calls it the blueprint because this is where we set up all our formulas, dimensionality, styles, and formats for all the line items that I create. So the first of my 10 favorite things that I'm going to show now actually comes back to the unique selling point I was talking about earlier, which is all to do with its ease of use for an enterprise solution. So everything in Anaplan is wizard-driven, and I'm going to show that through a couple of examples now. Firstly, I will put in a couple of formulas. So I can double-click on my formula bar, and it's very easy to create some summaries here. I can just add up the 3 line items I want to, hit return, and I have total taxes done. So I'll just show that again. So I can select tap total taxes, hit the plus, tap health benefits, and hit return. Obviously, there are more complicated formulas than addition, but as mentioned, it's all real language, so it's not any heavy coding at all. Now I've got some summaries in there. I'd like to get some data in. So I just hit Data Import, and there are some files that I've loaded in previously. So these are existing sources. And the source I'm going to use today is a CSV file. There are a number of options for data sources. And you can see Anaplan has brought up a wizard now that's automatically mapped my line items in Anaplan to the data in my CSV file. So I've got my time, departments, employees, they've all been mapped automatically. But I can choose to override that and map items manually. So for example, my CSV had Social Security, which I have manually mapped to National Insurance. So let's run that import now, which will get the data in. And Anaplan will come back with a review page of what's been brought in, and it's giving me a warning that some of the items have failed. I'm not worried about that because there was lots of information in that CSV file, and I didn't require all of it. I was only interested in these items. So some things have been failed to come in because they haven't been mapped, which is fine. So I'll close that now. And I have some data in here. Now you'll notice that the data that I've just imported is blue, and where I had those formulas that I just input in Anaplan, that data is black. In general, blue means editable. I can change those figures. I can import data into those cells. If it's black, it means that there's an Anaplan formula in there, and I can't type over this, and I can't import data into it. Now, some of you may have realized I haven't designed this module very well at all. The reason for that is AJ works in finance. So if I look at any other domain here, there's not going to be any data for AJ. I can show you that more explicitly just by pivoting the view here. Hit OK, and you can see for each person, they're only going to have data against one domain. So this module is very, very sparse. Anaplan is holding every possible combination of the data. If I go to my blueprint again and scroll across, it will tell me the cell count for this module. It's almost 900,000. So you do pay for additional space in Anaplan, so you don't want to waste it. But also it's just bad practice to have this kind of sparsity in a module. It's not a good design. So one way that we can tackle this is to create something called a composite hierarchy, which is actually the second of my 10 favorite things that I wanted to show you today. So in my original module, I have dimensioned it by this employee list and this department list. I have another list here called employee 2, where you can see that I have my employees rolling up into their departments. If I move to this configure tab, you'll see that I've set a parent hierarchy, which is departments, which is just this list down here. So I can dimension a module by just departments or by the child list, which is in this case called employee 2. Now, if I move to my second version of this historical salary breakout module, I've dimensioned this one by my composite hierarchy. So if I pivot this view again to be similar to how I had it before, you will see that we don't have that kind of sparsity anymore. This is a nice dense module, which is just what we want. And if I move to my blueprint and look at the cell count, I'm at about 100,000. There's 9 times less just by creating a parent list. Now, employee 2 is not a very useful list name. It doesn't really tell me what I'm looking at here. So I'm just going to rename that to be employee by department. And believe it or not, that is actually my third favorite thing that I wanted to show you today. It seems incredibly simple, but by changing this list here at source, that has rippled through the entire system of Anaplan. So if I move to the module that was previously dimensioned by employee 2, you can see that's automatically renamed here to be employee by departments. So if any of you have worked with other BI tools, good BI tools, you'll know that you'll have to find every single occurrence of the field, look through all of your script, look through any calculations, and rename it every single time, which is a real headache for such a simple request. In Anaplan, you rename it at source, and it's a 2-second change that ripples throughout the whole system. So as a developer, that is number 3 of my 10 favorite things. Now, one thing I wanted to show today was scenario analysis or what-if analysis, because Anaplan lends itself very well to that kind of thing. So I'm going to move on swiftly to my 4th favorite thing that I wanted to show you today, which is bulk copy. So if I come to versions here, you can see that I have an actual version and a couple of scenarios here. So if I want to create a third scenario to play around with, I can just create a new version here, call it scenario 3. put it at the end, hit OK. And that will set up for me a completely empty version. There will be nothing in that version, which isn't very helpful because I've set this up to do analysis on the data so that I can play around with the numbers without affecting my actuals. So I'm going to do something called a bulk copy here. All I have to do is select actual and say that I want to move all that data from my source member to my target member, which is scenario 3. Hit OK. It's just confirming that it will overwrite anything that is in scenario 3 already, but since it's empty, that's not a problem. So I hit OK. Lets me know how many cells have been copied, and that's it. Nice and quick and easy. It's a very familiar need. It's not something that is unique to Anaplan at all, but Anaplan is impressive in this regard purely because it's so quick and easy to do, which means you can be very flexible with your version. So here I have scenarios. You can also have actual v forecasts, or you could have snapshots as well. So you might want to have a snapshot in time, today, tomorrow, next week, next month, that kind of thing. I'm just going to carry over this switchover month to my new scenario. Switchover just lets Anaplan know, in this demo, I've sort of theorized that the switchover month is January 2017, which means I'm in January 2017. So I'm switching over from actuals in 2016 to forecasts or scenario planning from January 2017 onwards. Now that I have set up my scenarios, I will show you my fifth favorite thing about Anaplan. So we're halfway through already, and it's all to do with role-based access. If I come to this Users tab in the settings now, and I go to Roles to Versions, you can see that I have 3 roles here, CFO, COO, and a department head. Now, I don't want people to write to the actuals because I don't want them to mess around with data that's actual data. So I'm just going to change all of these to read. Now you can drop down, then you can also copy-paste just by hitting Control-C, Control-V, which I've done there. And you can see my third scenario that I've set up doesn't have any, it's all been set up with write access, which I don't want either. I don't want my CFO to be writing to it. I'm happy for my COO to, and happy for department heads to as well. So I'm going to leave that as is. Now, the good thing about user access, if I was miraculously promoted to be CFO tomorrow for some reason, my user privileges would change with my role. I wouldn't have to do anything. As long as I change my role to be CFO, then all my permissions here would update as well. Now I'm going to move into dashboard now and just demonstrate about that read-write access. So if I change this view to be actuals data, you'll see that this was blue for my scenarios, is now black, which remember means that I can't edit this at all, uneditable. If I move to my new scenario, scenario 3, you see that it's blue, and I can write over those and I can edit these numbers. Now, one thing I'd like to show now, it's actually my 6th favorite thing about Anaplan, which is something called Breakback. You can see it's popping up on the screen now. It's similar to GoalSeek in spreadsheets, if you've ever used that. You basically type into the total, and all cells that make up that total will be changed to meet the target result. So it's a method of top-down allocations, and the allocation method is always pro rata. So it's very simple to allocate using seasonality patterns, or in this case, we're going to be using the previous year's data as a profile. So if I have an extra 20% to distribute throughout all my domains, I don't have to work out how much of that extra 20% goes to each department. I could just type into the final value here, and Anaplan will calculate that for me, using last year's allocation as a base. Now, there is another neat aspect to Breakback that I'd like to show, but I'm going to come back to it in 1 second, because first I just want to justify that it's the right thing to do to keep the same allocations as the previous year. So if I am head of department for supply chain, I want to make sure that my additional budget is correct. So one thing I'm going to want to investigate is the attrition in my department last year. So I'm going to move over to my attrition dashboard here. It's a nice simple dashboard. We have a view of joiners and leavers last year, and we have a chart which is tracking the total actual headcount up until 2016. And now, remember that switchover date, so we're assuming we're at the start of January 2017, and we're forecasting our different scenarios here. These scenarios are controlled by the table at the top right. So if I want to change this to be minus 20%, you'll see that my chart will update with that. Sorry, that's the wrong scenario. If I change this one to be back to minus 16, you can see my chart updating here. So my scenario 3 hasn't been included in this graph yet because I only just set it up, which is why we didn't see the change reflected there. Now, to help me come up with these forecast scenarios, I'm going to use my 7th of my 10 favorite things about Anaplan, which is something called drill to transaction. So I might want to see who makes up this current headcount of 57. I can right-click and go to drill to transaction here, and it will bring back for me the lowest level data that 57 is based on. And it's telling me all kinds of things here, including something called a retention rating. So this might inform my decision for analysis. So drill to transaction is just a nice, quick and easy way to get the underlying data. Now, coming back to my dashboard now, it is obvious that this department has had retention problems from this sloping curve here. So we might need to allow for higher than average pay rises in this department just to keep the staff that we do have. So if I move back to my headcount planning now, I can either use my button here or the tabs along the top. So what I'm going to do is come in and change supply chain's new budget override to be 20%. I'm going to hold that figure, so I can just right-click, go to my Breakback options, and hit Hold. Now, I still have my extra 20% to spread across all the other departments. At the moment, I'm on almost 104%. So if I do exactly the same as I did before, type in 120, it will break back and update my figures, but it will hold my cell that I set to 20%. So it's a nice, clever feature, Breakback, because you do have quite a lot of control over it. All other departments have increased using last year's allocation, but supply chain has held the figure of 20% that I wanted. Now, I have a nice view of the numbers here of how this changes things, but I'm quite a visual person. I'd like something more visual, so I'd like to see a waterfall chart here of the additional budget allocation across departments. So all I need to do is open my source module. So the module is where I've been creating these line items, and I can select my additional budget, go to drop down here and hit Waterfall Chart, and that's it. It's done. I can publish it to the dashboard I was just looking at, Headcount and Payroll Planning, and it pops up there for me. It's nice and quick and easy. So I know some of you will have worked with BI tools before, and waterfall charts are notoriously difficult. Anaplan has made it very quick and easy for us here. So we've got a nice view, and we can view it by our different scenarios and our departments here, obviously. Now, although I have updated my budget allocation in an attempt to retain the staff that I do have, this extra 20%, I don't actually have a view here on this dashboard of what would happen to my costs if the headcount were to increase or indeed continue to decrease. So I'm going to move over to my scenario analysis dashboard now, to my what-if analysis, and I'm looking at supply chain. Here I can update my headcounts and I can look at the effect that that has across departments. So if I wanted to increase these numbers, if I wanted to have actually 65 people here and another couple of managers to deal with that, then I can update my numbers here, and that would be reflected below. Now I can turn off the actuals, so I can just focus on the difference between my different scenarios, or I can tune out the other scenarios and just look at how mine compares to actuals. There's a few options there. There's some nice interactions with the Anaplan charts. Now, say that I've had an afternoon of playing around with scenarios like this, and maybe I've gone to make a cup of tea, and I've come back and I've realized we had the perfect mix about half an hour ago, but I cannot remember for the life of me what we were doing. What we can do is use my 9th favorite feature of Anaplan, which is history. So if I right-click here and say, show me the history of the past 24 hours, it will have an audit trail of who has changed what in that cell. And you can export this as well, so you have a nice record of it. Now, obviously this is just a demo, but you can imagine how powerful this would be when you're in a real-life multi-user system. People are constantly changing numbers. Anaplan has automatically created a robust audit trail for you. Now, we have come to the 10th and final of my 10 favorite things about Anaplan, which is all to do with archiving and restoring models. So imagine we are at year end and we want to create a new model for the upcoming year. But you never know when you might need this model's data, and sometimes there's actually a requirement to keep data for a certain amount of time. With Excel, this is a case where you could end up in hot water. You'd have hundreds of spreadsheets. You're not really sure of the integrity of the data or how safe it is, and there is the issue of space, so you're wasting space with stuff you're not using. In Anaplan, I can archive this model. So if I go to this drop-down and hit Manage Models, you can see it's selected for me here, and I can just change the mode of my model. I'm going to change it to be archived. Hit OK. It's giving me a warning here to say users won't be able to access the model, and anyone who is currently in that model will be redirected to our tile screen that we saw at the beginning. So I say OK, fine. I'm in the model, so I'm being redirected to the tile screen. I say OK. And you can see it's no longer there, it's no longer available. If I move over to archived, there it is. I can't open it, I can't play around with it, and but equally, if I want to bring it back, it's just as easy as it was to archive. So I do exactly the same thing. I go to Workspace, Manage Models, staying within my workspace now, and should be able to find it. I need to check this, Show Archived Models, otherwise you'll hunt for it forever and never find it. And you can see it here. I'm just going to change my mode again, back to Standard, hit OK, and that's it. So my model will now be available again. It's no longer here under Archived. It's back on my favorites, and I can open it. So this is another case where Anaplan has taken something really fundamental, there's nothing groundbreaking going on here, but they've just made it really, really easy. So you saw how quick it was to archive, but then when we needed to, we brought it straight back. Also, archiving is unlimited, so you do pay for space in Anaplan, as I mentioned, but anything that is archived does not count towards that space at all. Now, this does mean that archiving has moved out of the hands of IT, which is great because there's no IT reliance. But if there are IT people on the call who are sweating at that thought, there is something called Application Lifecycle Management, which is integral to the platform. So if I pop back now to my screen, I can show you a slide on that. ALM. So ALM allows you to effectively manage the development, the testing, deployment, and ongoing maintenance of all your applications. which means you can scale across departments and users by quickly aligning to any key business goals and deploying any necessary changes across those environments. You can gain compliance with country and industry-specific governance requirements because you can securely manage all of those changes. You can deploy model changes quickly and roll out any of those critical changes through the platform, which allows you to consistently react to any evolving business priorities. Updated, detailed records are provided, so that allows you to uncover what changes were made, where they were made, and who they were made by. So you can confidently track and audit all activities at any given time. So you're really mitigating your risk by protecting your model from any unwanted or unauthenticated changes. I'm just going to summarize quickly what we looked at in our demo, just to recap what we saw there. So the first thing we looked at was the wizard-driven ease of use of Anaplan. So everything has a wizard, it's all clicking through, there's no complex coding to be done. Second was our composite hierarchies, or our parent list, as it calls, so where we had the employees rolling up to different departments. That saves space, and it's a good way of handling sparsity in your system. The third one was the ripple effect of renaming, so we can rename that employee list at source, and it will ripple through the whole system. 4 was bulk copy, so if we have a new version, we can bulk copy everything from one version to another in seconds. 5th was the role-based access, so changing people's access to different parts of the data depending on their role, nice and easy to set up. 6th was the breakback. 7th was drilling to transaction, so looking at that source data from a number on a dashboard. So we had 57 employees, and we could drill down to see who they were, where they worked, etc. Number 8 is the interaction or creation of charts. So that was the waterfall chart we created. You saw how quick and easy that was. Number 9 is the history, so that nice audit trail that Anaplan creates for you. And finally, we looked at archiving and restoring models. So if you like what you have seen today, you may have Anaplan already, or you might be thinking about getting it. You should know that there is something called Anaplan App Hub. Now, there's over 200 applications in this App Hub. You can choose from any of them and download them to your workspace, and then adapt them to reflect your specific business needs. So there's no need to go about start building these kind of systems from scratch at all. I've listed out just a few examples here. Also, you should know that Thorogood are developing an app to go into the App Hub at the moment, which is Curator. Curator is all to do with managing submissions to a regulatory body, specifically at the moment to do with regulating your Lloyd's core market returns. So if you are interested in that kind of thing, please do email me. The app isn't available on App Hub yet, but I would be happy to give you a demo. This is my email address here. So I will respond to any questions. I will collate them and get back to you. I hope that you have enjoyed the webcast today, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.